Worked as a project manager in social sciences for the European Commission, Brussels, and as director of the River Navigation Museum of Bagtila, Germany, in the city of Padau. Eriberto.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to be here and talk about a project that Civiltà dell'Acqua we managed to implement during the last year, trying to find ways to involve the youth for the preservation of an important heritage. In Venice, the boat tradition is a historic tradition, as you can imagine, but is about to disappear, to vanish. So how can we preserve and how can we involve the youth in this effort? Youth involvement in reimagining our sailing heritage. We are going to talk about this project, YouInHerit. By the way, we, as Civiltà dell'Acqua, have been awarded 2 years ago in Scotland with the Innovation Award. We developed a number of applications related to inland waterways of Venice. So Colle Euganei, Bacchiglione, Delta del Po, and Tagliamento rivers are all rivers connected to Venice. And not only rivers, but also canals that dates back to 800 years ago when Venice developed as a major center, a major city in the Mediterranean. So usually we associate Venice to maritime navigation, but Venice had also a very important connections to the mainland, and well, these waterways are almost derelict today, abandoned, and in a sense we made a contribution through this app to make them more appealing for tourists and also for politicians. So, yeah, it's definitely impossible, but not only water, can we think also, can we imagine Venice without boats? Also gondolas are very strongly associated with the image of Venice. But what about all the other boats that are disappearing? Because somehow the gondola is the postcard that every tourist wants to see, and all the other wooden boats that have been developed during many centuries are not fashionable today, difficult to use. Many times you have to row with them. You can't adapt the boat to motorboats, and so many of them are vanishing, as you see on the right side. This is a picture taken along the Sile Waterway, 20 kilometers from Venice, which was used for centuries, at least from the Middle Ages to the 50s, so until 60 years ago, for transportation with the burki, these wooden boats that have been abandoned. Today there is nothing left about that heritage. And in Venice, in the Venice Lagoon, you have many small boats, like, okay, the Sandalo is the typical boat, which may take different forms, Mascarete, Caorline, Bragozzi. Many of them are disappearing today. Not only the boats, but also the boatyards, the family that used to preserve the techniques, the knowledge to build them. So, what is the role of the youth in preserving this tradition? We were confronted with this difficult, challenging task, and thanks to the support from a European project, Interreg project, some of you are aware about it, also in Ireland, well, everywhere in Europe you have different Interreg projects. There are different families of Interreg projects. This is a Central Europe, So includes only nations from Central Europe. And yes, I'm going to talk about the goals and activities of this project, how we try to involve the youth in creating new digital tools. And well, I'm going to conclude about the project transferability. So this strange acronym means youth involvement in the innovative valorization of traditional trades and crafts. There are 12 European partners, which are from Poland, Slovenia, Croatia, Hungary, but they focus on different crafts, how to make beer, oil, and we wanted to focus on traditional boats. So this is our main activity, and the goal of this project is to regenerate the cultural heritage of ancient crafts with the youth involvement. So it was really our task, and the main question that we had to try to answer: how can we motivate the youth to acquire new skills to maintain old crafts? So on the one way, we could organize training courses with the last boatmen, how to build a boat, but if these boats are not interested to anyone, what are we going to transmit? So we turned a bit the main question we wanted to answer to the following one: how can we make Venice's traditional sailing, so not only the gondola, where a gondoliere can bring you around Venice, but how can we make the entire traditional sailing, the sailing tradition of Venice more attractive to tourists also? Because tourists, they go around with the gondola and then they are not interested to know where the last craftsmen, boatyards are still active. They may go to Venice and buy one of those souvenirs that they produce in other parts of the world, and the real crafts are dying, and no one knows about that. So yes, instead of organizing training courses for the youth on, this is something we are going to do maybe in the future, we wanted first of all to make the youth more interested to these last boatyards and craftsmen which are still active in Venice, and we wanted to talk the same language that the youth talk in order to make the subject more appealing to them. So using this open source platform, which is called Easy Travel, I know that some of you may know already this platform, especially in Europe is quite popular. You can write whatever destination, Dublin, and there are a lot of itineraries by foot, by boat that you can enjoy. It's an open source platform, so everyone can upload his own itinerary. Itineraries made by locals and youth in our case. And I have a short video presentation to show you about what we developed with this project. Basically, Easy Tour is very useful if you download the application, which is a light application on your smartphone, and then if you're interested to visit Berlin rather than Rome, you digit the name of the town, and then a number of itineraries will appear in your smartphone. You can also consult through the website, but it's not the best because it works if you are geolocated and gives you updated information every steps you take during your itinerary.
Quando ho cominciato io a navigare, io sono un barcaiolo in estinzione ormai, no? Posso dirti che è un'imbarcazione che del nome deriva saltare i fossi. Navigazione?
Schier, che è un gamberetto grigio da fango, che è tipico della laguna.
Uno dei ragazzi di quarta B dell'Istituto Turistico di Venezia al Galotti.
Qui con Saverio Poster, maestro d'ascia.
Stiamo andando al cantiere Toffolo. Venezia.
Dopo ho fatto, devo lavarmi le tavole.
Arzanash significa arsenale.
Per me il turista è un viaggiatore.
Okay, so as you understood, we wanted to make the students protagonists of this creation of new digital itineraries. We could have done it by ourselves in much less time, maybe in 1 or 2 months instead of 10 months. And it is really a pilot action. So for the first time, we wanted to see with them how receptive they were about the contents and also the language that we choose to use. Basically, we involved a relatively small number of students, 75 in total. 25 were those directly involved in 5 working groups to deliver 5 digital tours, and other 50 students were involved to test the digital tours in Venice. So basically, we had 150 hours of training with external tutors dealing with geohistorical contents, multimedia contents, and information and communication technology contents. And yes, we developed, we are about to develop also a toolkit for the transferability and the replication of this project. And now what you have, well, we just uploaded a few days ago, but you have 10 new digital tours, so 5 in English and 5 in Italian, with the 72 points of interest. What are the points of interest? Well, are the places where you stop and you can visit and discover, explore something new. And in our approach, we decided not to make tours dedicated only to boat yards or craftsmen, because for some people could be, annoying or not interesting. So we made a combination of famous tourist attractions and what was the real subject of our project. And by making this combination, our aim is to involve more tourists and to create more job opportunities for the youth. The craftsman that you can see on the left here, Saverio Pastor, is maybe the last craftsman in Venice who learned the technique of making forcole, oarlocks, from an ancient master. So the last one. And well, of course, his business is to sell forkole, these oarlocks, and so we are just trying to support not really his business, but the continuation and the transmission of techniques. How to make a digital itinerary. This was the subject of our training course. Basically speaking, first of all, we asked to the students what were the main itineraries they could cover in Venice. So first they had to focus on contents. They had to make a census of the main places and to make a kind of round tour to make it feasible and attractive to many tourists from different angles. Second step was to create a digital map, as you can see from this picture. And then the storyboard, the design of the tour. And finally, when the draft tour is made, they had to develop the content. So the specific points of interest, the one that you can see with the yellow point, are the points of interest where you have to describe in more detail what you can see and what you can visit. So why did we use geospatial technologies? Because it's the best language to attract students. Young people, they, when they visit any place as tourists, very often they don't see around, they look at their smartphone. And also people don't buy paper guides anymore, especially tourists. They download the guides from internet. And so we thought that this was really the best language to involve them. And indeed, the digitization today multiplies opportunities to access heritage and engage audiences. The fact that we developed these itineraries and that now are available through Easy Travel platform is a way to increase opportunities to access this heritage, which in alternative would have no chance to survive. Yes. It's a matter of fact that these technologies are changing our perceptions of place and time, and this is confirmed by cultural geography and media studies, how these new technologies are refashioning our knowledge of place and are transforming our habits and our attitudes on how we perceive space. We know the place. So if you are in internet, anyone can find you. If you are not in internet, well, there are alternative ways to be known, but basically no one knows you. Also, you saw from the video presentation that we taught the youth on how to make interviews and collect stories from these protagonists of a previous age, let's say. And we choose this method, collecting water stories, because for the youth, it stimulates imagination. So from the very beginning, many of them were not interested at all to nautical tradition, to boat tradition, but when they met people, they started to be more and more involved. So collecting stories and trying also to re-elaborate stories which are available through our points of interest is a way to engage the youth, but also engage the audience, because it's difficult to listen to the story of an old boat constructor, what is his experience. So in these 5 itineraries, we collected also some 15 interviews, which are available, easily downloadable from the tours. Yes, so one of the main challenges was to help and give support to students to create stories, which is a way to stimulate their imagination. For them, it's not easy to create a story about navigation, even in Venice, where we have this huge tradition. And so, yes, create stories and using geospatial technologies, I think, are two possible ways to involve better the youth. Yes, digital storytelling and 15 water stories that now are available in this platform. Basically, the methodology we followed is the involvement of local communities, local craftsmen, and then we started to digitalize the main heritage and include it in these points of interest. We collected also oral stories through interviews, and we created a storytelling of the Venice's nautical tradition, and finally, everything was translated into what we call cultural itineraries. So how are we going to transfer all these contents? First of all, we are going to use this platform. This is a new project which was endorsed a few months ago by UNESCO. The Intergovernmental Council of the International Hydrological Program approved the global network of water museums through a specific resolution. So this project or program is now a UNESCO IHP initiative. It's not our initiative anymore. The global network includes already more than 60 museums from all over the world, where we received many manifestations of interest. And all these museums together can count more than 5 million visitors a year. And UNESCO is interested to have new approaches to transmit sustainable water management and to reach larger audiences. That's why this project was approved by UNESCO. Well, there are a number of museums, like the National Water Museum of China, among them. You have in Ecuador, Yaku Parque Museo dell'Agua. You have from England the National Waterways Museum of Ellesmere. All these museums preserve already a kind of water heritage, different from waterways, to protection of the environment, involvement of local communities. Some of them are very engaged to preserve intangible heritage, creating water awareness on more sustainable uses. There are archaeological museums, natural science museum. All these museums have a specific topic related to water. And yes, we want to make available these water stories, 15 interviews in the website of the Global Network of Water Museums. And also, we are going to make the digital tours available through the website. So if you are interested, you can pick up a leaflet of this project, the Global Network. Yes, and what we hope is that young audiences will be more and more involved to collect more water stories related to waterways, not only waterways, stories related to water in general. And in 2 months, also our manual for practitioners related to developing digital tours will be made available through the website of the Global Network of Water Museums. So in conclusion, we think we learned that digital tools are a way to involve and stimulate the youth also in regenerating nautical traditions and in reshaping our water perceptions, water words for a more sustainable future. Thank you.
Thanks, Eriberto, on that very informative paper on engaging the youth using technologies. Our second speaker is Michael McClure. Mike works for Sport Northern Ireland, and his role involves liaising with the local and national government agencies, national federations and clubs to develop outdoor sport and recreation. He's led a consortium that developed the Northern Ireland Outdoor Recreation Action Plan, which provides the framework for developing Northern Ireland as a great place to be active outdoors. Mike is the secretary of the European Network of Outdoor Sports and has been involved in a range of European projects, including the Get Wet project. Mike is an active outdoor enthusiast with his main passion being sea kayaking. He's a British canoeing level 5 coach and has led trips throughout the UK and Ireland, as well as in Canada, America and Europe. Mike was an environmental scientist and worked in outdoor environmental education for over 20 years. He is passionate about engaging people with nature and communicating the importance of ecosystems and wildlife. Mike.
Thanks so much. It definitely is the graveyard shift. There's not many people left. But what I'll do is I'll try and give you an insight into this project that we had. Okay, so the project was called Watersports Enhanced Together. I've been a canoeist and a sailor and involved in water sports for many years. But the problem with water sports is that they're small. And when you're competing with things like rugby and athletics and football, all those other sports get the lion's share of support and funding and development. So one of the things we wanted to do with this project was say, let's work together. Let's bring the canoeists, the anglers, the rowers, the sailors all together and work in partnerships. That was kind of the background to this project. The project was developed by ENOS, which is the European Network of Outdoor Sports. ENOS was formed about 6 years ago now, 2012, 2013 was when it was formed. And it brings together a range of stakeholders from across Europe who are interested in the outdoors and the outdoor sports. Again, at a European Commission level, the interest is in football. It's in rugby, in tennis, athletics. And what we're trying to say is, at a European level, outdoor sports are hugely important. And yet they're largely ignored, particularly by the European Commission Sport Unit. So the aim of ENOS is to promote the importance of outdoor sports, which was really pleased, and also the traditional sports, outdoor sports that happen across Europe. So it was good to hear the last project. So what I'm going to do is very quickly run through why water sports. Why should we promote water sports? Now, I'm probably speaking to the converted because you're all at a World Canals Conference. You're all convinced with that, but we'll come back to that. I'll tell you a little bit about who the partners in the project were, what things we did, and how we achieved them. And then we developed a toolkit, and I'll go through in a little bit more detail about the toolkit itself. There is one copy left up here, and I think there's one copy at the back. I brought a whole load, and they've already gone, so that's good. But you can download them, and I'll give you the link to download the toolkit. And then I'm going to very briefly at the end talk about the other work that we're doing in ENOS about outdoor sports benefits, so I'll come back to that at the end. So, this stuff is miraculous. It is miraculous. We take it for granted. In Ireland, it falls out of the sky fairly regularly, okay? And there's loads of it. But did you know this is one of the only elements on Earth where the solid form floats in the liquid form? Most other objects, the solid form sinks. If it sunk, there'd be no life on Earth. We would have a frozen planet. So it's miraculous. You put the two ingredients of this together and they explode. And yet we drink it. It's fantastic stuff. And our bodies are made of water. And so human beings are drawn to water in ways that we're not drawn to anything else. It's come up all the time throughout this engaging people session, throughout today, where regeneration in urban settings takes place beside water. People want to be beside water. We've heard about how mental well-being is improved by doing exercise beside water. So all of these things show that water is fantastic stuff. From a sports point of view, from a water sports point of view, it's all ages. We heard from Una May this morning about how women and young people are engaged in traditional sports, team sports, and then it tails off. But water sports tend to be lifelong. People participate in sailing and rowing and canoeing right throughout their whole lives, from very young to very old. It's gender neutral. In our project, 51% of our participants were female, which we were really surprised about. We didn't expect that to be the case. It's about fun. Who doesn't enjoy being at water, particularly when the weather's good? This summer we had a fantastic summer in Ireland. We all love being in or around water. There's loads of it. In Europe, and in fact, in Ireland, we have just an abundance of water, and it's free. We can access it free. But there's other things as well. It has been shown to really improve self-esteem when people participate in water sports. They gain a real sense of self-confidence, particularly young people. It builds social capital. It brings people together who maybe traditionally wouldn't be naturally bonded together. And it brings about social inclusion. So these were the partners. It was ourselves in Sport Northern Ireland, and then Waterways Ireland, who covered the whole of the island of Ireland. And we're two government agencies, and this was quite deliberate. We selected the partners quite deliberately. So with two strategic government agencies. We then had two universities, the National Sports Academy in Bulgaria and the educational establishment in Catalonia, the main teacher training college that does the sports teacher training in Catalonia. So they were two educational establishments. And then two voluntary sector organisations, the National Surfing Centre in Portugal and Suomen Latu, which is a network of all the outdoor sports in Finland, which concentrates a lot on water-based recreation in Finland. And the reason we chose those partners was to try and have breadth in our partnership. And one of the things I would say, if you are developing European projects, having that breadth is really important, where you have different skill sets within different partners. And that proved really beneficial. So what did we try and do? Well, our main purpose was to get more people involved in water sports. And so we ran a series of taster programs and activities. We ran these, what we call flotilla events, where we brought different sports together and did a flotilla down a big river or on a canal. We brought lots of the different craft and activities together to showcase and promote the importance of water sports. One of the most important things we did is we recognized that we worked closely with clubs, activity providers, to deliver a lot of these programs. So we didn't, Sport Northern Ireland, we don't deliver stuff. We work with partners to deliver. So we got all the clubs to deliver, and we recognized that there was lots of volunteer coaches and leaders and instructors who were helping delivery. So we ran an exchange program for 30 coaches who then could learn from other countries. And that proved probably one of the most beneficial things. We developed the toolkit, and then we had a whole process of dissemination. So how did we get on? This project ran from 2016, May 2016, to the end of 2017, so it's just literally finished. Our target was for 2,500 participants. We thought that was quite ambitious, and we achieved 5,468. We were blown away by the demand for the programs that we ran. But also we were blown away by the support we got from the clubs and the activity providers. Our flotilla events, this was the one in Lough Erne. We had a fantastic event up there. We had canoeists, rowers, sailors, all going down Lough Erne as part of European Week of Sport. And our target, again, was 1715 with over 2,000 participants involved in those programs. With our 30 coaches who went on exchange, so it was 2 coaches from each country went to the partner countries and learnt about how water sports are developed, managed and promoted in each of their partner countries. And that was really effective and very useful. We had a social media page and a general website. The website's beactivegetwet.eu. The project was linked to European Week of Sport. The web page will come up at the end again, so don't panic about taking it down. So I'm going to show you a quick video that just sort of highlights some of the stuff that we did. So you can either have a wee snooze now or enjoy it. So, they told me I can go on for as long as I want, so I'll not go into this in too much detail, but what I'll do is very quickly go through some of the key things that we did in the toolkit. It was developed collaboratively by the partners. It was probably the bulk of the work in the project, so there was the taster sessions and the programs that we ran, but then the partners got together and worked really hard to develop this document. And the aim of the document is to help other organizations who want to develop water sports at a pan-European level or at a local level even, how to do it effectively. So we have 7 key chapters in it, and probably the first one is the most important. How do you make the case for water sports? How do you get funding for water sports? How do you showcase the importance of water sports? And that was probably the one that we put the most emphasis onto. The second chapter was then about developing successful events in water sports and how you manage events, because that can be quite challenging, managing water sports events. In fact, we really struggled for some of our flotilla events to get approvals from local authorities to run water sports events involving a range of craft, because they just saw it as a risk, a problem. So we wanted to try and showcase how to do that. So I'll go through each of these in detail a little bit more. The way we did this is we surveyed the people who participated in the programs. We had 5,500 participants, and we got 657 returns on surveys, which was really good. So that gave us a real insight into what people thought and how they got involved in the project. We also then spoke to all of the coaches, leaders, and instructors who helped run the programs and asked them what were the barriers, what were the challenges, what worked well. We surveyed all of them. We got a huge response rate. It was something like 85% from all the coaches. So we got a lot of data that we worked through. We decided as well to write up, and in the document there are case studies of good practice so that you can see what has worked well in each of the partner countries. So there's a case study from each country. And then we wanted to produce recommendations. And recommendations are at a local level for clubs and activity providers, for local authorities, for strategic government agencies like ourselves, but also for the European Commission Sport Unit. And that was quite important that we created those recommendations. And we've provided a lot of templates. So if you are running events or you're looking at a program and you want good examples of how to do risk management, we provided templates of how to do that. So those are all in the document. We were delighted that the Commissioner for the Education and Culture of the European Commission wrote the foreword to the toolkit. We got in touch with them and said, look, this is what we're doing. We think this is quite innovative. That very few projects in the sport unit on water sports, that could count them on one hand over the years they've been running Erasmus Plus programs. So he was delighted that there was a project that was really promoting water sports and agreed to write the foreword to the overall document. So in terms of each of the key areas, making the case at a European level, and we heard this morning, one of the biggest concerns is about physical activity. And the European Commission promotes this idea of health-enhancing physical activity. So showcasing what water sports can do for health-enhancing physical activity is a really important aspect. And what I went on to earlier on, it was lifelong. It's not about just a certain age band, the sort of 10 to 18-year-old. It's lifelong activity. The importance of connecting people with the natural environment. Europe is interested in the natural environment. So actually saying that our activities connect people back to that natural place. Plus it's good for your mental health and well-being. The accessibility of water and showcasing how you can get accessible water, and then what it can do from a social perspective. And I'll come back to that later on. In terms of the managing events, we put together a list of how to determine whether an event has been successful or not, and then the process by which you go through to manage an event effectively. We also wanted then to do a whole section on communication. How do you communicate effectively? What was interesting in our project, we thought the website and social media will be the main way that we will get participants involved in the programs that we set up and run. It wasn't the case. In every single of the 6 partner countries, the most effective way to engage with the local community in terms of getting them access to water and participating in activities was word of mouth, something in the local newspaper, going and talking to people and that sort of thing, direct communication from the club. By a long way, 73% of the people who participated, most of whom had never done water sports before, found out about it by talking to people. So, social media is important, but actually, as human beings, we still like to talk and have conversations. but also how to then do things like press releases and work with the media and that sort of thing. So again, there's a press release template within the document that can be of help to clubs and providers. Risk. Risk just has taken over our lives, hasn't it? I'm sure it's not just in Ireland here, but we're constantly dealing with risk. I no longer do risk assessments in my job. My job is outdoor sports in general. We do what we call risk-benefit analysis. So we say, what are the risks, but actually, what are the benefits? And do the benefits outweigh the risks? And how do we manage the risks effectively that we can enjoy the benefits? Because if you eliminate all the risks, you will get no benefits. So we went through this process of saying, yes, it is risk assessment, but let's not maybe use that term. Let's think about benefits as well. And then just how to run safe programs for your participants. This was a critical one again. We found out through the project that people with disabilities really felt engaged with water sports. There was very little barriers for them, and those barriers could be overcome relatively simply, not always using fancy equipment, sometimes just cobbling together something that made things work. And Surf Club de Viana, since that, has been really at the forefront of running disability programs in Portugal, and has done fantastic work in terms of getting people out surfing who have got fairly severe disabilities. We heard earlier on from Una May from Sport Ireland about the importance of engaging women in water sports, and we wanted to do a whole chapter that said, let's try and see what are the issues that affect women participating in water sports. And very similar issues came out that Una's expressed. Time pressures were a big factor. And how do you make water sports family friendly and female friendly? Although, as I say, we were really surprised by the level of participation in our project of females. And the final one, which was really important, was the sustainability. We use the natural environment for our sport. We don't use a pitch that's been built by a local authority. We don't use a sports hall. We use natural places where other people and wildlife has to coexist. And so some people even have their workplace environments. So we said it's important that we actually highlight how we behave and act sustainably as we do our activities. So you can download a copy at our website. So it's beactivegetwet.eu and then / tool-kit if you want to download it. I said there's 1 or 2 copies left, but most of them have disappeared already. So, and if you would be prepared to indulge me for another 3 minutes, I want to just talk about our next project. This is ongoing at the minute, and it links very closely. It actually came out of the Watersports project. At a European level, there is a method to measure the economic value of sport. It's called the satellite account system, and it was developed by the European Commission. So you can measure very directly what are the direct hard economics of sport. And in Northern Ireland, we took that model and we developed a process to measure the economic value of outdoor recreation and sport. And there's documents of that at the back of the room if you want to grab one. But there is no agreed methodology at a European level to measure social value and put empirical values on it. It doesn't exist. So ENOS, the European network, decided we would really like to try and do that for outdoor sports. So this project called Benefit of Outdoor Sports for Society is all about how do we measure those social values and put a value on them. Because when you're bidding for funding, often it comes down to money. How much money are you asking for? What benefits will you accrue economically when you do that? So this is quite a complicated slide. There's a couple of pop-ups at the back you can have a closer look at or come and talk to me. It's a project involving 11 partners. It's about 500,000 euros. It's a big research project. What we're doing is reviewing all the evidence at a European level for the benefits associated with outdoor sports. We're currently developing a model to monetize that. We're going to test that model next year using a range of projects, and then we'll produce a toolkit that will say, this is how you could do this, use this. I have to say, it's not simple. It's complex. But hopefully we'll produce something that is quite useful. In terms of the studies, we've just finished work package 1, which was actually looking at all the studies. We found at a European level, there were 17,500 academic studies that showed a very clear and direct benefit from outdoor sports to society and to individuals. And out of those, we extracted information from 133 key studies that help us develop the model. In terms of the benefits, there were 6 key areas of benefits. One was pretty obvious, physical health. When you do outdoor activities, when you're moving, you get physical health benefits. And there were a number of studies for that, 45 studies out of our 133 that really highlighted very effectively that. But what came out really interestingly was the mental well-being of being in the natural environment and doing activities like water sports in the natural environment has a huge impact on mental well-being, and we had a lot of studies on that. Also, there was quite a lot on crime reduction, on the use of outdoor sports and outdoor activities to engage young people who are at risk of offending. There's quite a lot on education and how we improve educational standards through the use of outdoor activities. And then there were other benefits associated as well. These are the different ones. I'm not going to go through them all, but it gives you an idea. The information is at the back there as well. And I think all the presentations are going to be available, aren't they, afterwards? So you know, we're in the middle of this project. It's really fascinating. We hope to have a model by the end of next year. So again, if you want to keep an eye on the websites, the Outdoor Sports Network.ie is the European network, but the website dedicated to this project is outdoorsportsbenefits.eu. Would love, if you're involved in outdoor sports at a local, regional, national or European level, whether it's through the canals or other waterways, we'd love you to get involved in ENOS. Our membership is really cheap. We keep it really low cost because what we want to do is engage more people through the network and to help promote the importance of outdoor sports at all forms at a European level. So do have a look at the website. Do join us. We have a great conference coming up next year in Portugal, in Viana, where you can see that. And the focus is going to be on blue growth, which would be of real interest to this conference, and Europe 2020 through outdoor sports. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that presentation on the WET project and indeed an insight into the future project. Could I maybe invite Mike and Eriberto to the front here for a Q&A session, please? I'll throw it open to yourselves then for...
Thank you very much. Quick question, and I'm sorry if I missed when you said this at the beginning of your presentation, Colin, but what proportion of ENOS is non-wet? I mean, European Network of Outdoor Sports suggests non-wet stuff as well.
Yeah, it's everything. Our definition is those who use the natural environment for physical activity, recreational.
So do I understand correctly that the water stuff represents a majority part of it?
Not a majority, it was just a part of it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say necessarily. I mean, we look at cycling, skiing, climbing, all sorts of sports, but my interest is water sports.
Understood, thanks.
Hi, I'm Jean McKay. I'm with the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor in New York State. And we have an increasing number of paddlers on the waterway, canoe, kayak, stand-up paddleboarding, no swimming whatsoever. And it was historically, you know, a working waterway. So there's a lot of perception, and there's still some reality of water quality being an issue and people not wanting to. I mean, we had a question this summer of a wife who wrote in saying, my husband is paddling and I don't think he should because he could die from the water. And so, the research, we kind of came back with, well, actually in your area, it's perfectly fine. But I'm wondering about water quality and water sport, and if you'd speak to that, because I certainly, there's swimmers, there's all kinds of things, and I think we need some ways around that in order to really get more people onto the water in smaller crafts.
Yeah, we did deal with it slightly in the toolkit. At a European level, there is a water management unit, and there's a water framework directive, which is about water quality, and there are requirements on all EU member states to meet that water framework directive. And if they don't, there are very significant fines. So there's a lot of work going on in Europe at the minute to improve water quality. It's pretty obvious we need to improve water quality. We rely on it. But you're right, it can be an issue whenever you're developing water sports. So you do need to work, and this comes back to the partnership approach. I highlighted at the start, we worked with the different sports, but actually we worked with local authorities, with environmental agencies. You know, we said it's about that overall partnership, about working together. So you're absolutely right. If you want to develop something new, you do need to check that the water quality is appropriate for what you're doing. It is quite good. I wouldn't say it's great. It's quite good. There are places where it's fabulous, and there are places in more urban environments where it's not. It is improving, but it's a very slow process to improve it. Our beach quality, our coastline is very good, but the inland waterways, most of them perfectly safe to canoe, sail, row in. Not all would be safe to swim in.
The canals in the eastern region is very high quality
Yeah.
water quality. Yeah, the eastern region canal network is very high quality water, and it's monitored regularly as part of the
Yeah.
water
Yeah,
framework
all
directive.
waters are monitored regularly. That's the thing. They have to. It was interesting in Finland. Their biggest sport is wild swimming, you know, but their quality of water up there is fantastic. But that was their biggest sport, was wild swimming, including winter swimming. And one of the things they told us was that all you need for winter swimming is a saw and a swimsuit, and you saw a hole in the ice and then swim. They're lunatics. So.
Any more questions?
Coffee.
I was very interested, Eriberto, in your presentation around young people. I work in the Dublin Docklands, so I'm new enough to the team there, and I'm looking at the heritage of value of that and how to connect that with young people, particularly young people that are very indifferent. How do you see your project going forward now that it's up and running? Do you see more opportunities for kids because that area in Venice, or is there more opportunity to explore that, or how do you see that kind of growing legs and developing further?
We just started with a number of itineraries. There are some more itineraries that could be developed for the nautical sector. Not so many. I think there is a great deal of work to be done in the lagoon of Venice, which is a kind of unexplored area of Venice, especially for tourists, people that come from outside. They don't know that Venice is in the middle of an environment, the lagoon, which is a cultural and natural environment. It is protected by UNESCO, by the way, and not only the historic city of Venice, but the entire lagoon. And there are a lot of opportunities to develop more digital itineraries, either through easy travel or other platforms, to let people and tourists know that Venice is not only, the mass tourism postcard that everyone experiences while visiting Venice. We have almost 30 million tourists every year, which is really a lot. But they can also enjoy places which are much more quiet, silent, where you can appreciate the color of the lagoon, also with the outdoor activities. Many youth are involved in promoting also the rowing technique of Venice, and they can exploit, if they like, also these opportunities. So I think in general is a good way to involve the youth, to let them know what you are doing, not only through dedicated application, because the problem of the apps is that then you have to communicate that your app exists. Otherwise, no one knows you. But if you use pre-existing networks, like this one of Easy Travel, which is becoming more and more known, at least in Europe, there is a way of automatic, promotion of your digital itineraries. It's not really an app, are digital itineraries. And also the youth for outdoor activities could exploit this opportunity. It's a way, not really something that you know through social media or through direct involvement, but people that come to see something different, explore something different in your town. They go into the internet, and if they want to, if they know this open source platform, they can download and go directly to experience what they want to do, either outdoor activities, cultural heritage trails, I mean, whatever can be disseminated and promoted through these tools. And of course also both tradition and nautical tradition, waterways, heritage, should exploit this way of promotion.
I was just wondering, as I listened to that last piece, is there a governing group that vets the product that is proposed? I can see some youth who might utilize it for encouraging graffiti or other nefarious activities, and I wondered if somebody puts something like that up, is it immediately monitored and their wrists slapped?
So I don't know if I catched your your question, but basically through Easy Travel we can monitor the access and the download to the itineraries we proposed, and also there is a way to give a direct feedback if people liked what they experienced, if there are gaps, how it could be improved. So as you may know, it's a kind of anonymous feedback, or people can also write their names, and it's quite useful because there are always many ways of do it in a better way. Did I answer to your question?
Not really. I was thinking, for instance, in Oxford, there's a climbing club, and what they do is climb buildings again, without permission, and it's very dangerous. And somebody might put together a program like that, and you don't want it on your website because people need to know how dangerous it is, and the people who are encouraging it aren't dwelling on that portion. They're trying to encourage people to break the law.
I think it's really important in any project that you have a management system for your media, whether it's social media or your website, and someone dedicated to keep an eye on things like that, particularly social media, because things can go viral very quickly, and the ability to remove it. So whenever we do any of our projects, we would ensure that there is a dedicated person who monitors the activity on the social media for exactly those reasons. Absolutely. It's an important aspect.
Yes, whereas in the case of this open source platform, in principle, anyone can upload if he's able to do it, whatever tour or itinerary. So on the one hand, what is positive is that it's much easier and less expensive to create your own digital tour and make it accessible through this open source platform. On the other hand, the quality and the contents are not checked and managed maybe properly in some cases. So it's in a way the risk of any open source platform. But yes, we decided with the youth to use this platform. Maybe there are better ones, I don't know. And possibly in the future they have, I think during the last year or 2 years, easy travel increased very much. And what they should do next is really to, kind of assess what should be made available or not. Because in some cases you have some itineraries which are quite poor. They explain in 2 lines. Well, they're quite poor for the contents, the multimedia part, and everything. We had the chance to develop this project with the Venice University, so who is researchers, local communities were involved, and I see not all itineraries of this level, but at least what we can do is, take advantage of the promotion that Easy Travel will do, especially among young audiences, because many youth, they travel across Europe just downloading these guides and selecting the digital tour they like. So maybe by drinking one spritz, what we call in Venice, they can enjoy, a boatyard, a square in front of them, and try to appreciate something different from Venice than a very tourist town which is invaded by tourists.
Okay.
Listen, folks, thanks very much for your participation. Again, I'd like to thank our two speakers, Eriberto and Mike, for their excellent presentations on engagement. And it's unfortunate that we didn't have a bigger audience, but sure, it's their loss. So listen, I'd like you to show your appreciation for the two guys again. Thanks very much. And we have a small presentation here for the two speakers.